Have you ever wondered what made Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military genius, seemingly invincible? Well, we're about to step into an era where one man's strategic brilliance held an entire continent in awe. This is the tale of the early 1800s, when Napoleon reigned supreme. Now let's clear something up. Napoleon wasn't a giant, nor did he possess superhuman strength, yet he was indomitable. Napoleon, ladies and gentlemen, was a master of the grand game of strategy. Imagine a chessboard, but instead of pawns and knights, you have armies, cavalry, artillery. Instead of a game board, you have the vast landscapes of Europe. Now, visualize being the player who always seems to be one step ahead, always knowing the right moves to make, bewildering the opponent, who can't predict what's coming next. This was Napoleon. This man was the proverbial kingpin of Europe, his tactics as swift and unpredictable as a lightning strike. Whenever war was declared, Napoleon was there on the battlefield, executing his strategies, leaving no room for the enemy to think, plan, or breathe. His strategies were relentless, aggressive, and above all, incredibly effective. But the genius of Napoleon wasn't confined to the battlefield. His armies stood out because of their mobility, their ability to move quickly and adapt to any situation. This ability to strike from anywhere, anytime, left his enemies in a state of constant fear, never quite sure where the next blow would come from. Yet, it wasn't all about military prowess. Napoleon was also a master of diplomacy, forming alliances and partnerships that further cemented his position. His enemies, often fragmented and without a united front, were no match for his political acumen. We invite you to unravel the secret behind Napoleon's unbeatable streak with us. Stay tuned as we delve deep into the mind of this invincible genius, unraveling the tactics, strategies, and innovations that kept him on top, until of course he wasn't. But that's a tale for another time. For today, we conclude our peek into Napoleon's path to success. One of the most significant strategies that set Napoleon apart was his lightning attack, known as the Napoleonic Blitzkrieg. This strategy was all about quick and decisive action. Napoleon, a master of the element of surprise, would launch an aggressive campaign at the break of dawn, often before his enemies had even had their morning coffee. His troops, trained to move swiftly and efficiently, would storm enemy lines, leaving them in disarray. This tactic was not just about speed, but also about concentration. Rather than spreading his forces thinly a wide front, Napoleon would concentrate his troops on a specific point in the enemy's defenses. This would create a breach that he could exploit, often leading to a swift. This approach took his enemies by surprise and left them to respond, like a chess player who starts with a bold, unexpected move that leaves his opponent off balance. His lightning-fast attacks were one of the reasons Napoleon seemed invincible. Another key to Napoleon's success was his army's mobility. Much like a Swiss Army knife, unlike tools however, it's an entire military force ready to spring into action at a moment's notice and strike anywhere, anytime. Picture Napoleon's army as a highly mobile force that kept his enemies in a constant state of bewilderment. Visualize being a general attempting to strategize your defense against Napoleon, but you're left to guess where he will strike next, from the north, the south, the east, the west. While you're preoccupied guessing, Napoleon is busy advancing. This mobility was not merely about movement, but also about adaptability. Napoleon's army could quickly adjust to new situations, making the most of changing circumstances. This ability to be everywhere and nowhere, to strike and then vanish, to adapt and overcome, this was the secret weapon of Napoleon's Swiss Army knife army. His mobile army was another piece in the puzzle of Napoleon's invincibility. How significant do you think mobility is in modern warfare? Napoleon wasn't just a military genius, he was also a master of diplomacy and alliances. We will now delve into this aspect of his invincibility. He knew how to play the political field just as skillfully as the battlefield. His ability to form strategic alliances often left his enemies in disarray, scrambling to form a unified front against him. His alliances weren't about adding numbers to his forces. They were strategic, calculated moves, aimed at weakening his enemies even before a single cannon was fired. He was like a chess player, thinking several moves ahead and setting up traps for his opponents. He would form partnerships that seemed impossible, leaving his adversaries amazed and often outmaneuvered. These alliances allowed him to isolate his enemies, making them easier to defeat one at a time. Imagine being on the battlefield and realizing your allies have switched sides. That's the kind of shock Napoleon was capable of delivering. His skillful diplomacy was yet another reason why Napoleon seemed unbeatable. Can you name some other leaders who were also master diplomats? Napoleon was not only strategically brilliant but also a visionary who introduced several military innovations. Picture yourself in the early 19th century, where warfare was largely traditional. Suddenly, you're introduced to modern tactics, efficient logistics, and quick communication among troops. It's as if Napoleon had a time machine and brought back military advancements from the future, revolutionizing the battlefield with the use of the core system, a military structure that allowed for greater flexibility and speed in response to enemy movements. He also understood the importance of logistics like no other, ensuring his troops were well supplied and could move quickly. Napoleon even established an optical telegraph system for rapid communication across vast distances, unheard of at that time. These innovations were game changers, giving Napoleon's armies an edge in battle. They were like secret weapons, making his forces more efficient, responsive, and deadly. These innovations further cemented Napoleon's position as an invincible military leader. Can you think of other military innovations that changed the course of history? Despite his seeming invincibility, Napoleon did eventually fall. The first domino to topple was Russia. In a clever shift of tactics, instead of engaging directly with Napoleon's forces, the Russians employed a scorched earth strategy. Retreating further into their own land, they destroyed everything in their wake. They burned crops, poisoned wells, and left nothing that could aid the French army in their pursuit. The harsh Russian winter did the rest of the work. Napoleon's once unstoppable forces were left frozen, starving, and far from home. This was the beginning of the end. Meanwhile, on the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal were not sitting idle. They saw an opportunity in Napoleon's struggles and started applying pressure. The Peninsular War, as it came to be known, was a thorn in Napoleon's side, distracting him and dividing his forces. The decisive blow, however, came at the Battle of Leipzig in 1813. Known as the Battle of the Nations, it was one of the largest conflicts in European history, involving 500,000 troops. Napoleon, against a coalition of European powers, was severely outnumbered and outmatched. His defeat there was a crushing blow from which he never fully recovered. This marked the first significant defeat for Napoleon and led to his first exile to the island of Elba. But the ambitious ruler was not ready to fade obscurity. In a daring move, Napoleon escaped from Elba, returned to France and reclaimed power in what came to be known as the 100 Days. But his return was short-lived. At the Battle of Waterloo, he was finally defeated for good by an Allied force led by the Duke of Wellington. Napoleon's fall showed that even the seemingly invincible can be defeated under the right circumstances. His downfall serves as a stark reminder that no one, not even a military genius like Napoleon, can hold on to power forever. No matter how mighty or invincible one might seem, the forces of time, strategy, and collective resistance can bring even the greatest to their knees. Why do you think even the most powerful leaders can fall? But the story doesn't end with Napoleon's first defeat. Much like a phoenix, he rose from the ashes, only to fall again. After being exiled to the island of Elba, Napoleon, ever the strategist, orchestrated a daring escape. He managed to return to France, and in a twist worthy of a blockbuster film, reclaimed power in a period known as the 100 Days. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a testament to the indomitable spirit of a man who refused to be defeated. But what's a good story without a little more drama? With his return to power, Napoleon stirred up the hornet's nest. The European powers, who had thought they'd seen the last of him, quickly rallied against him. The stage was set for a showdown of epic proportions, the Battle of Waterloo. Now, Waterloo wasn't just another battle, it was a clash of titans, a fight for the ages. On one side you had Napoleon, the man who seemed to have 9 lives, and on the other, the Allied forces determined to end his reign once and for all. Napoleon, always the gambler, decided to go all in. He launched a full-scale attack, hoping to divide and conquer the Allied forces as he had done so many times in the past. But this time, his luck had run out. The Allies, led by the Duke of Wellington and Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher, held firm. They weathered Napoleon's onslaught and launched a counterattack that took the French by surprise. The battle raged on, but as the dust settled, it became clear that Napoleon's star was finally waning. Despite his best efforts, his forces were overwhelmed. The invincible Napoleon, the man who had dominated Europe, had finally met his match, was captured and exiled again, this time to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, far removed from the power and glory he had once known, Napoleon lived out the rest of his days. And so the saga of the invincible Napoleon came to an end. But his story, his audacity, his genius, and his eventual downfall continue to captivate us, reminding us of the fleeting nature of power and the indomitable spirit of humanity. Napoleon's story is not just a tale of military genius and invincibility, it's also a tale of resilience and eventual defeat. The life of Napoleon Bonaparte, the French general who became an emperor, is a rich tapestry woven with threads of strategic brilliance, audacious innovation, and unyielding resilience. From Napoleon's story we can learn several lessons. First, strategy is vital. Napoleon's ability to plan and execute complex maneuvers, often surprising his enemies, is a testament to the power of strategic thinking. Second, innovation can be game-changer. Napoleon's military innovations, from his core system to his use of mobile artillery, revolutionized warfare and gave him an edge. Finally, resilience, even in the face of defeat, is a powerful trait. Napoleon's return from exile, though short-lived, demonstrated his refusal to defeat. As you reflect on Napoleon's life, remember, even the seemingly invincible can be defeated under the right circumstances.